So, as an eligible organisation, you can order up to 10 titles and up to 50 copies of each title. So what is a title? A title would be Microsoft Office, Microsoft Windows is a title, and Microsoft servers and things like that. So under those restrictions, an organisation could order 50 copies of Microsoft Office 2010 Pro, or they could order 25 copies of Office Standard and 25 copies of Office Pro, because the Office Standard and the Office Pro would consist of one title. The exceptions to these rules are server licenses. You have a maximum of 4 server licenses that you can order regardless of titles. And Windows 7 Get Genuine, which is a special product. You can order up to 50 copies of each of Windows 7 Get Genuine, but it does come under the same title as Windows 7 upgrades, and that's a one-off order. As of July last year, you can place a Microsoft order whenever you like, and you can place an order for as little as one title, one copy of a piece of software. And this is 10 titles and 50 copies of each in a 2-year period, and the 2-year period starts from when you place your first order. So after 2 years, you can go ahead and order more if your organisation has grown or if there's something else that you need. But an example of a typical organisation with, say, 25 employees or volunteers, 25 copies of Office Pro, there's a title, 25 copies of Windows 7 Professional, a copy of Microsoft Small Business Server, and 25 Small Business Server cows. So that's 4 titles, and they can quite easily get what they need under the allocation assigned to them. Now, there are a couple of different things about the software donation program compared to ordering retail software. These licenses are volume licenses, which means that they need to be activated through the Microsoft Volume License Service Center, which is completely independent from Donatech. When you place your order, you'll get an email which includes the codes that you need. You go onto the Microsoft Volume License Service Center, you enter your codes, and from there you activate your software assurance, which gives you 2 years of free updates. And they're not just security patches and service packs and the basic updates. If you ordered a copy of Office 2010 today, and Microsoft released a new version of Office in the next 2 years, say Office 2012, you would get a free download of that through the Volume License Service Center. And that's the other big benefit. You can quickly and easily download all of the software that you have licenses for through the Volume License Service Center. So as soon as you get your codes, you can log on, you can download your software, and away you go. You don't have to wait for the software to turn up, the physical media to turn up. Are there any questions at this point? No problems. Hopefully everybody's still awake. So I get a few questions on what can I actually do with technology. A lot of people just order a copy of Office or something like that, but what can you actually do with the technology that's available through the donations program? Microsoft make a very, very large percentage of their catalogue available to not-for-profits, and it's only some of the really big enterprise products that aren't available. And with this software, you can allow your staff to work remotely, which is something that's becoming more and more common these days, with staff working from home, staff on the road, staff out with clients. They need to dial up a client record or something like that. That's one of the fairly common ones that we see, looking up patient records or things like that. You can use customer relationship management software to track donors and funders. I'll go through that a little bit later on. Your staff can work more collaboratively. You'd be amazed at the difference it makes to a number of organisations. Something as simple as everybody running the same version of Office makes a huge difference, because all of a sudden you've got everybody's using the same files. And it's important to remember that from Office 2003 to Office 2007, Microsoft changed the file format. So it's really important that you're all on the same version. And then there's little minor things like fonts and things like that. Making sure everyone's got the same software just makes sure that everybody can quite easily swap files. But then it goes through to more advanced solutions like SharePoint and Intranet solutions and things like that. And obviously send and receive emails, and we'll go into a couple of solutions that are available a bit later. I've thrown up the URL there for the case studies on our website. It's just donatech.org/case-studies. And you can see what some non-profits just like you have done with their donations through the donations program. There's a big variety of different cases there, from little organisations to huge organisations. So it should give you a good idea and hopefully some inspiration. So some of the basics that I want to cover, which apply to everything software donation, regardless, whatever. Getting on the one version is really important for all of the reasons that I've just outlined, and you can quite easily do that through the software donations program. And obviously software assurance means that everyone can stay on the same version. For those organisations that are lucky enough to have an IT department, or any IT guys that are on the webinar, you'd know that imaging computers, it's a lot easier to do one image with one operating system and one piece of software. So everybody's got the same setup. It's a lot easier. One of the really common questions that we get here is, do I need a 32-bit version or a 64-bit version, and what's the difference? There was a shift in computing a few years back towards 64-bit computing, and the main difference is that 32-bit computers can only actually use about 3.5 gig of RAM. So any computer that's got more than 3.5 gig of RAM really needs a 64-bit version. Otherwise, that extra RAM that extra memory is wasted. At the same time, older computers would still need the 32-bit version. But most computers released in the last 3 or 4 years would be 64-bit, and I would always recommend that people order 64-bit software, especially if they've got new computers or the ones that are available through our refurbished computer program that I will talk about later. And what is a client access license? Effectively, it is a license that allows a client to access a server. And it's that simple. There's a whole range of different ones. There'll be Exchange client access license so that you can connect to an email server. There'll be a remote desktop client access license that allows you to remotely connect to a server. And then there are two different kinds from there. There's a user CAL and a device CAL. And a user CAL, you would allocate one per user, and a device CAL, you would allocate one per device. And really, it's down to what suits your organisation and what's cost effective. There's not a right or wrong answer here. If you have users that use a computer at work and use a computer at home, then it's probably more effective to use a user CAL with them, because that way you don't have to have two device CALs on their computers. You can get away with the one user CAL. It's just a bit more portability. So some of the more common programs that people request through the donations program, and some of the important differences. So Windows 7, So do you order the Get Genuine version or do you order the upgrades? Basically, the upgrades will allow you to upgrade from a professional copy of Windows XP or Windows Vista. So in the case of Vista, it's Vista Business and Vista Ultimate. If you don't have one of those, if you've got, say, Windows XP Home or Vista Home Premium or something like that, then the Get Genuine software is a really good way of getting to the latest and the right version, and then being able to upgrade through the donations program from there. Main difference is that the Get Genuine software is obviously a once-off donation, as I mentioned, and the Get Genuine software doesn't come with software assurance. The upgrades, on the other hand, are 2-year software assurance, which means with Windows 8 coming, you'll be able to upgrade for free. You'll be able to just download the image from the Volume License Service Center. That should be released in the second half of the year, hopefully. And the 32-bit, whether you order the 32-bit or the 64-bit, it's exactly the same as I was saying before. It really just depends on how much RAM you've got as a general rule and how old your computer is. Office 2010. Now we offer 2 versions for PCs through the donations program, and that is the standard version and the Professional Plus version. Now I put this slide together to basically show a really quick comparison of what is included in each product. Now for most organisations, the standard suite comes with everything that they would need. Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook for email, Publisher for newsletters and other documents, and OneNote is quite a cool note-sharing application that can share between devices, which is quite handy. The main difference with Professional Plus that I think non-profits would use, and we get a lot of requests for, is Microsoft Access, which is their database solution. There are still a lot of organisations that are using Access databases for client records or billing or things like that. So having a copy of Access could be quite a useful asset. You also get a copy of Office Communicator, which is now called Microsoft Link, which is an internal instant messaging tool that is mainly only deployed in larger enterprises. InfoPath is an information management tool, and SharePoint Workspace allows you to do some extra work on SharePoint. In most cases, it totally comes down to use. Most organisations would get away with standard, and you can always request a donation of Microsoft Access later if you need it. But the difference in the administration fee through the donations program is fairly minimal. So for those of you who are looking into servers at the moment, I've picked out our most popular server solution, which is Microsoft Small Business Server. It's designed for organisations with up to 75 users, and it's basically designed as a server in a box. It comes with everything that an organisation with under 75 users would need. There is another version that I'm not really going to talk about today, which is called Essentials, which only supports 25 users and is mainly for file sharing. But you'll see shortly that some of the features of the standard and the premium. So they do a standard version, which includes all the basic functionality. The premium add-on adds the premium functionality, essentially. They changed the licensing with Small Business Server 2011 in that if you want the premium version, you have to have both, which means that we now offer a standard and premium add-on bundle, which counts as one title under your Microsoft restrictions. Small Business Server 2011 is 64-bit only, so just be careful with that when you order it. Probably not worth upgrading really old servers to Server 2011. And the user and device cows also come as suites or bundles, so you get all of the cows that you need per user in one title. So the basic features of standard are the core features of Windows Server 2008. Like I said, it's very much designed as a server in a box, so it gives you all the basic functionality like file sharing and print sharing and domain handling and things like that. Exchange email server. I would say that a number of you would already be using Exchange, but it is a really great way of sharing not just emails but calendars and tasks and contacts. We use Exchange here at Connecting Up, and it's brilliant for the way that we can share email folders. SharePoint Foundation gives you a intranet tool that you can use. That's quite useful for being able to share messages, share files, and give people remote access. And SQL Server 2008 is included, which just gives you a database server that you can use with everything else. So, Premium add-on essentially adds a SQL Server 2008 license, the small business version, and that's really useful for organizations that are running a piece of software that is database driven. So an example would be eTapestry. If anyone's using eTapestry, there are a few other accounting and business applications that would need an SQL database. So it just gives you an extra license just in case you need it for that. And you also get a additional Windows Server 2008 license. So in a nutshell, what that basically does is allows you to enable remote desktop services. So people in the field with an internet connection can connect to the server, can securely access client records and things like that that are stored on the server, which we find to be really useful, especially for organizations that have to do home visits and things like that. It's really useful to be able to log in and get all the case records that they need. So through the donation program, we also do a number of discount partners, and one of those, which is our most popular one at the moment, is discounted refurbished computers. Now we have desktops, laptops and MacBooks available, and unlike the donation partners, there are no order limits to these discounted partners. All of these computers are picked by us to be the best deal that we can source for the non-profit sector, and they are hand-picked to be able to run the latest software. They're all dual-core. They all have enough RAM or enough memory and a hard drive space to be able to run Windows 7 and Office 2010 and any other modern software that your organization is likely to need. MatchIT is another tool that we've had running for about a year now. MatchIT was developed in partnership with Microsoft to connect non-profits to the technical help that they need. One of the most common questions that we had through the registration process for the webinar, or people emailed through, is just, I don't know what to do, I don't know where to start, I don't have any IT support, I can't do it, basically. But through MatchIT, you can ask one of our database of technical experts, or even Microsoft MVPs that are on there now. You can ask them for some help with your configuration or your issue that you're having or whatever it might be. Now they get an email as soon as you post your question, and in most cases we get very, very quick responses. Now these IT support people are in a location-driven database, so you can find a IT technician near you, and they're on there because they want to help non-profits. So most of them will offer, if not all of them, will offer special offers and discounts to non-profits. And you may find you can get some free advice on there about how to set it up. You can get the software through Donatech, and then these IT support people will be able to implement them for you for very little, if not no cost. So the next steps after these overview and these different products would be SharePoint, which is an intranet solution which allows you to share files, download files. A lot of you would be familiar with SharePoint and similar intranet solutions. And Microsoft Dynamics CRM, which I'm not going to touch on a lot today because we are looking at doing some more on that in a future webinar. But it's a customer relationship management tool that is available through the donations program from Microsoft. And they actually do a non-profit plugin for Dynamics, which converts it all to be funder-based and donation-based rather than customer-based and driven. And those two solutions there, if you need help with those, Match IT, there are a lot of vendors on there that spend every day implementing SharePoint and Dynamics solutions for organisations. So you can ask them questions about what they would recommend, and they can assist you with that. Does anyone have any additional questions?
I have a question here from Anna Musgrove. She wanted to know more about the CRM systems, and I know you touched on the MS Dynamics in a potential webinar, but she also wants to know about other software for membership-based not-for-profits, and if there are any good in the cloud solutions. Is there anything else you can add on that, Ryan?
In terms of cloud solutions for CRMs, there are a few out there. Salesforce is a popular one, and they'll actually be presenting at our conference in 2 weeks in Sydney. So if you haven't registered for the conference, come along and you'll be able to talk to the Salesforce people. I believe they do non-profit discounts as well. So Salesforce is the big one. Salesforce is the popular one. There are some vendors on Match IT that offer cloud-hosted Dynamics implementations. And the other thing to remember is there are also a number of cloud providers now that will allow you to bring your own licenses. So it may actually save your organisation money to obtain your donated licenses through Donatech and then have the cloud provider implement them for you. You can actually do a blend of both. We did a webinar with NetLeverage last year on how this can work, and I'm quite happy to go into more detail with people after the webinar if they'd like more information about that. But Salesforce is the big one I'd recommend for that after Dynamics. There's also CiviCRM, which is an open source solution, and I think somebody might be presenting on that at our conference as well. Yeah. So there is a CiviCRM session at the conference as well. So that's a good opportunity to go along to the conference and see a few different solutions and actually ask people in the flesh. But again, Match IT, the vendors on there would be able to give you a good comparison.
Great, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions on anything else? Okay, there's one here from Vincent Leverage. The question is, what about Adobe software, i.e. Photoshop, InDesign? Adobe's website has some reference to not-for-profit offers in US, but nothing in Australia.
Great question, Vincent. We would love to say that Adobe is available through the donations program, but at the moment it isn't. They do a donations program in America, but not in Australia. There is something called Gifts in Kind. So if you go to your favourite search engine and types in Gifts in Kind, you should be able to find some information there. There's quite a lengthy approval process, but you may be able to obtain Adobe software through that. We are looking, we will hopefully have Adobe on board in the next month or so in terms of discounted software. They do offer some quite significant non-profit discounts. So we'll be sending everybody an email out when we can confirm that.
Okay, here's another question from Mitzi Kent. What apps can you recommend with iPads or iPhones that can support these types of software?
Sorry, can you just repeat that, please?
The question is, what apps can you recommend with iPads or iPhones that can support these types of software?
All right. I'm not sure what types of software in particular, but if you're talking about your general kind of business solutions, the best tool I can think of is also available through the donations program. An Australian company called Net Leverage offer a product called Thinpoint, and it's very similar to Microsoft's remote desktop services, in that it will allow them to connect to a server and view the data and interact with it, much like they were on a normal desktop. Thinpoint's designed to tunnel through firewalls and things like that, so your connection will work regardless of what network you're on, and you'll be able to interact just as if your iPad or your iPhone was actually a screen for a Windows computer.
So does anyone else have any other question? It doesn't have to be about Microsoft, it can be about any other technology related question or issues you might have, and we'll try as best as we can to answer them. Here's a question from Greg Hammond. Do you have a recommendation for an easy workflow tool to help automate internal forms like staff applying for leave, timesheets, etc.? So an easy workflow tool for internal processes.
Coincidentally, that's something we're actually looking at implementing ourselves very, very shortly. We're in the process of upgrading our server to Small Business Server 2011, and using SharePoint Foundation, we're going to implement leave forms and things like that in SharePoint. So people will be able to request leave from home or from any internet-enabled computer. That's probably what I'd recommend, SharePoint. It's probably going to be the easiest solution rather than trying to custom build something.
Alright, so that's a Microsoft SharePoint, yeah.
Yeah.
So any other questions? I mean, John did mention if the questions can be posted for everyone to see. We'll put them on the chat tool as well so everyone can see it, because sometimes I think the audio drops off. Anything else from anyone? We do still have a lot of times for questions, and as I mentioned, this webinar is purposely designed for you to ask questions or issues. There's one from Vincent again. Do you have any recommendation on ISP services, good offers, and have you heard anything about NBN?
The NBN's got a really good website that shows when the rollout will be coming to your area. I can't remember the URL off the top of my head, but if you do a Google search for NBN rollout, I would think that it would come up. In terms of ISPs and hosting providers, I haven't really heard of any that are offering non-profit deals specifically. There are a number in Australia who are offering cloud services now, which can save you a lot of money. There are people like iiNet and Ninefold, and hopefully we've been told that Amazon will be building a data center in Australia quite soon. I'd probably recommend to try and create a relationship with your local ISP, explain that you are a non-profit, and see whether there are any discounts. I've had a lot of people tell me that just by asking they've been able to secure discounts from a number of different businesses.
Alright, here's another question for you. It's from Mitzi Kent. Any hosting providers to support social media and social media analysis?
Well, that kind of depends on how much money you want to spend, really. We use a tool here called Hootsuite, which is free for a certain number of accounts and a certain number of users, and it allows us to work collaboratively. We can see who's posting what. We can see we can schedule tweets and Facebook messages to be in the future, and it also gives us some quite in-depth stats. There are a few others like Sprout Social and things like that that are free, or they're very low cost. But then they go up to things like Radian 6, which will cost you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a month. But Hootsuite gives us almost everything that we could ask for. And once you go over the account limit or the user limit or anything, it's a fairly low cost tool, really.
Okay, anything else from anyone? I mean, we do have a range of different products available on our DonorTech programs, and we can't address all of them here right now, but if you have a specific thing in your organization that you want to do and you don't know what software or product to use for that, can probably help you here now.
One thing I will do then, while we've got a bit of time, is I'll just show you the website. Hopefully this is going to come up. Does that come up okay, Christine? Great. Alright, so on the website I've already logged in. Now, I was talking before about the Microsoft restrictions and just how much you can order. One of the great things that happened in July last year when Microsoft changed their restrictions is that they developed this new tool called the Microsoft Software Donation Center, which tells you where you are and what you can still order. So now that I've logged in, I can see this My Orders and Requests link over under the user menu. So if I click on that, my order history comes up. I haven't ordered any. So if I go to my Microsoft Donation Center and click on that, this tells me where I am at. So when I was referring before to a 2-year cycle, you'll see here that it's telling me that my cycle begins once I've actually requested a donation. If I'd already requested a donation, it would have here the date that the cycle ended. Okay, and then I can see here what the rules are, the basics of it. There you go, you can request 5 server licenses and my title groups. So I have 10 more title groups that I can order from. Now if I had already ordered, it would show me the title groups that I'd ordered from, and it would show me how many licenses I've requested, and it would show me how many licenses I can still request. And then over here, this is the really good one. This actually tells me how much worth of software Microsoft have donated to my organization at a fair market value, so at retail price. So that way you can manage how much you can order, you can manage how much more you can order, and everything to do with your Microsoft donations all in the one place. And that will show me down the bottom everything that I've ordered, which is nothing at the moment.
We have one more question from John Glennon. The question is, any website construction software that you recommend?
These days, I probably wouldn't recommend many of the specific, the old school, I guess you'd say, construction tools. Things like Dreamweaver is one. They're more designed for making static HTML pages. These days I'd recommend a content management system of some description, and they don't have to be very difficult to set up. A lot of hosting providers will set up the basics for you, and then you can get an off-the-shelf template and you can get set up really quickly. The DonorTech website runs on a content management system called Drupal, There are others like Joomla is another one. WordPress is more of a blog site. And then there's also, through the donations program, we offer SharePoint for internet sites. And it sort of gives you the familiarity of Microsoft SharePoint, but the ability to use it for a public-facing website. And that the content management systems, the advantage of them is that it really helps you. It really helps you manage the content on an ongoing basis. Users with little to no technical skills will be able to update pages and put new news items up and things like that. But if you are after something to make simple HTML pages, Adobe Dreamweaver will be available shortly for a discount, and Microsoft Expression Web is a good solution for that as well.
There's a comment here from Richard saying that Easy Online will help not-for-profits for almost no cost.